Greetings, and what a wonderful day today has been, the 7th of August. I was sitting here earlier on today and I heard Lionsgate open. At the same time, the wind picked up high up, affecting the tallest trees, and they did like a dance, swaying in the wind, and as quick as it started, it stopped again. It was a magical moment to witness. And one of my guardians came over in the clouds, and the eyes were looking at me. That's been wonderful today as well. There's going to be some big things happening, but something else I have put together. Again, I'm indebted to Santos Bonacci, and I've looked a bit further into this on a personal level as much as anything else, and also the feedback I'm getting from other people who've looked into things. It makes sense. This is something I've always been fascinating in. Why do, when women are pregnant, they get cravings for certain foods? Well, the answer is actually very simple. The saying about the body knows what it needs applies equally to the fetus. So through the umbilical cord, a baby before it's born will draw the foods that have got these particular salts, and it's no good just looking at the ingredients of something. You've got to go into to look at which of the salts it is. Now, because you have a 9-month gestation period, it's not making the full 12 zodiac signs. Now, again, if you want to find out more about this, I'm going to refer you over to Mr. Astrotheology channel. We can find out a lot more about this and how to take these salts. I've still got to look into that myself. Excuse me. But what I have found is, I'll have to explain this probably to the American audience. We have a thing called Marmite over here, which is like a yeast extract. It's like a black treacle almost. Well, I put it on quite thickly onto either bread or biscuits. Now, the salt contained in that is potassium chloride, which is the right salt for Gemini, which I am. I'm also slightly deficient in magnesium, which is Leo, which is magnesium phosphate, and Cancer, which is calcium chloride, will be another one for me. It seems to be your star sign and the following two, but I would also look into the previous one. So I'll just read you the list. So if you are Aries, it's potassium phosphate. Taurus is sodium sulfate. Gemini is potassium chloride. Cancer is calcium chloride. Leo is magnesium phosphate. Virgo is potassium sulfate. Libra is sodium phosphate. Scorpio is calcium sulfate. Sagittarius is silica. Capricorn is calcium phosphate. Aquarius is sodium chloride, and Pisces is iron phosphate. Now, interestingly, my mother is Capricorn, and when she was born she was iron deficient, and so obviously Pisces applies to her. And you will find this, your health will improve if you look into the particular type of salt in a particular food that you either like or have a craving for. That is the reason why, because we have 12 salts which have a frequency which matches with each star sign. That is something really important to look into for the sake of your health. Now, earlier today I left myself wide open. My mother had her chiropodist come round, and I took one look at her and I thought, she's got cancer. How do I tell her this? And she said she'd been to Glastonbury, and I thought, that's probably what's triggered it with the 5G. And I said, when did you last have a health checkup? And it was years ago. And I said, I strongly suggest that you get a health checkup. I didn't tell her the reasons why, because I obviously don't want to frighten her. But the look on her face was, yeah, right. And I thought, sometimes you think, why do you bother? You leave yourself open to being crazy, and you're actually trying to give these people information to help them. But I don't know what it is, a mental block or something, but I'd rather be looked at and laughed at and be called crazy. You can think of this in a way of like the story of Jesus carrying the cross, being abused, having abuse held at him, being spat at. It happens with the truth seeking side of things. Definitely, you get called crazy and so on. You probably know all about it yourselves from your own experience of it. But the thing to remember is always stay true to yourself and don't give in to the fear of what other people think of you. Now this Lions Gate is open, you are going to see big changes happening, and long overdue, I would say. This is going to be a wonderful, wonderful time. As usual, I've had a day of the fly through with the blackbirds. With the they've even worked out what bedroom I sleep in, and they're chirping outside the window when there's nobody up in the morning to for their breakfast. They're pretty smart cookies, really. Um, I've had to sort of tell them off today and say, look, there's enough for all of you. You don't have to fight. I thought, oh, you're becoming too human here. um, it's like, please don't start copying humans and fighting amongst yourselves. But humans do a good enough job of that, all being played one against the other as pawns. It's so ridiculous. This 3D aspects, seeing someone basing on whether you like or hate them purely because of the way they look. It's so ridiculous because I was also shown yesterday. I was shown quite a lot yesterday, and I had to go and lay down. And I went into this really deep sleep for 3 hours. But prior to that, I was shown a very different reality right in front of us, all around us. Surprisingly, it's in black and white, and we're all basically in like hamster balls. So we are basically atoms with that nucleus in the middle of it. And we're pretty much all jammed up together. It's surprising how many there are. Um, so in some ways, when they say about the world is overpopulated, if you were to bring all these spirits into physical bodies, then yes, we would be. I dread to think how many there must be. What, 100 billion or something maybe? That's only off the top of my head guess. I'm not going to start counting them. I'll be here forever. Um, but yeah, it's been a fantastic day. This garden here is proof enough to me that you really can create the world around you, because it is bucking the trend from all the doom and gloom posts you see on Facebook about bees in decline and butterflies in decline and this and that. This garden is the opposite. I've got sparrows come back. I'm pretty sure there's a thrush come back. We've had a woodpecker in the garden, 16 blue tits and coal tits and hedge sparrows as well. Still the resident blackbirds are here, pigeons, um, rooks or crows. I'm trying to think what else. We get all sorts of visitors. Butterflies are to be seen everywhere. Bees are up. Dragonflies with the pond. It is wonderful, and all the garden is really blooming. The only downside is the poor plum tree seems to be getting more dead on it. I think it may have even come to the end of its life. I'm going to try and do my best to save it anyway. Um, but we had three months of no rain last year, and if you know, trees work on tension, so if they get an air bubble, it could actually be a serious problem for the tree. Not that year, but the following year, as I'm finding out now. So I'm going to do all I can to save this plum tree. It's horrible when it happens, but this is a carbon copy. We really are in a matrix. You do have 12 pipes in your back. Metaphysical, you could say. They're not something you can. You're not in this 3D world in a solid form, but they are definitely there. And it is possible to unplug from this matrix. Exactly what is going to happen, and how it's going to actually play out, as had it explained to me, the cake has been made. It's just you've got to take it out the oven at the right time so it's not overcooked and it's not raw in the middle. Because we are in this three-dimensional world where time, everything is governed by time. The Chronos, the crown, El, Satan, whatever you want to call it. It's unique to this three-dimensional reality, which is actually an illusion. There is a wonderful world, a perfect world beyond this for definite. And it's basically, here's the deal, right? If you don't get out of it this time, you've got 25,920 years, the great year, to wait till the next opportunity. It is as simple as that. Some of you I've spoken to, I've talked to you about the feathers. Well, they're your get out of jail free cards. Spend them wisely. Pull through the people, because I'm sure this is what's going to be happening. Those feathers you will be able to use as the weighing against the heart with Anubis when the time comes. Whether you actually see this as a physical being, or whether it remains something that only appears in the reality to the mind, is yet to be seen. But there is clearly an overlap. There is clearly a way of pulling through things into this dimension, good and bad, intentionally, unintentionally. It's all planned out. There is a source above everything, so even the good and the evil are all coming from this same source. They're all experiences that we go through, and we either make it or we don't make it. We're never intended to wake everybody up. They will go round again and again, potentially 216 times if they have a 120-year lifespan, and keep coming back almost immediately, which is, I believe, the Buddhist idea that you reincarnate straight away. You don't go into this thing called purgatory or limbo. That remains to be seen. But you know what you've experienced, if you have experiences of past life, and if you have memories. But what I will say, if you feel a deity aspect about yourself, well, just embrace it, because it will empower you. It doesn't mean go around proclaiming it to everybody else, obviously, because those that are meant to see it will see it anyway. Your power will come from the recognition that you are given, because this is all about mutual cooperation. This whole idea of, say, for example, a king in the hierarchical sense ruling over is the complete opposite of what it even tells you in the Bible. Jesus, who is this king, is washing the feet of his disciples. Well, you just look at what's on your feet, the souls. He is cleansing the souls. He is in service of humanity. It is it's an ideal to work towards, to be this character. You can call it whatever you want. The names are totally irrelevant. It's the real seeing is from feeling. It is seeing from the heart, because that is where you want to get with everything. Get to the heart of the matter, and that is exactly what we are in this three-dimensional world. We are matter. We are all atoms, and we all have the 12 disciples within us, the 12 signs of the zodiac. I mean, this is not my original ideas. This is from listening to other people, and then a bit of dot joining as much as anything else. I'm not taking credit for any of this. I'm just reiterating and hopefully speaking to a different audience. But I will recommend more channels, because the more viewpoints you look at, the better, and then you can make your own mind up of these things. Anyway, that's it for now, and thank you very much for listening.